to pick up all the new books that come out the week. We give them a good read. The ones we like are stashed. We put them in our long box. The ones we don't like are a blast, and they go wherever. Maybe Joe's auction. I don't know. As mentioned, this is a review show, so this is your only warning. Spoilers may be abound. So, but before we jump in there, make sure you give us a thumbs up, share us out there, give us a like. And if you haven't checked out our Patreon, make sure you go over and check out that. We've got some great prizes over there. Just got this book in. This is going out to Joe, actually, who was a Patreon patron long before he even became a panel member. And that is Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy #1, the Middleton cover. Great cover. Crappy story. But moving on, we're going to go ahead and jump into the books from September 11th, 2019. And we'll start with you, Joe. We don't know where Mike, we don't know where Paul, we don't know where Drew. But I'm sure maybe they'll jump in the middle of the show. So
yeah, I'm sure they'll jump in and talk about a book we already talked about. But that's all right. We got some good stuff this week. Where do we want to start? Let's give DC some love. Let's give them a little bit of love and a little bit of a shout out. We're going to start with the Gotham City Monsters. Bam. Now, I'm going to preface this with I should like this book. Like, this should be a book that I don't like. But I did. I really enjoyed this. It was a breath of fresh air. We get the classic monsters from DC all teaming up, even with some new twists to it. We got a vampire. We got Frankenstein. We got a clay female monster, if you want to say that, but it's really just clay. She keeps that form. We got a woman that's a killer whale, and we just got all kinds of just goodness. Oh, we got Killer Croc in here too. So this story picks up with Killer Croc on parole, basically, because that's what happens in Gotham. And since he's a monster, he's in Monster City, which is in Gotham City. I don't understand why they have to call it another city if it's in Gotham, but whatever. And apparently this is where all the monsters hang out, or the people that are perceived to be monsters. And we kind of get a quick, what is Frankenstein? And he's kind of like this, I don't know, good guy, anti-hero, right? We expect that, but he speaks in this very noblesque way, like very old, not old English, but he speaks in that manner. I can't quite describe it. The way he talks is so unique in this that I really enjoy it. Some parts I thought maybe it was a little overplayed, but all in all, I really liked it. And apparently he has a problem with these unclean monsters, and he has no problems with setting them on fire, as we see here in the bar. Just sets them on fire. That was kind of awesome. I kind of liked it. He's kind of got this kind of Punisher attitude towards bad guys, and I really enjoyed that. And then right then we pick up onto these little quick stories about the other teammates, who they are. We're just introducing them at this point. Some of the stuff's kind of hinky and weird, but I can look past that as long as you keep giving me action like this. Like, that was just great. This is him shooting one of the evil baboons in the face, because baboons always have to be evil, unless it's Lion King, then it's a kung fu nightmare. We find out that Frankenstein doesn't really want to work with other people, so the whole team dynamic is going to be interesting in the next few issues. He literally chops the vampire in half just so he can go kill this bad guy. I don't want to mispronounce his name live on the show. Did you get it? Moloth?
I mispronounce names all the time on this show. Yeah. So you're good company.
First appearance, I've looked him up online. Apparently he was a wizard on Mars, and he's been in DC comic books for a while. I must have just missed those issues, but apparently he's coming back, and I kind of like this whole sorcery thing and monsters being thrown together with Halloween right around the corner. Just feels comfortable right now, like pumpkin spice whatever at this point. Hey Jacko, what's going on, buddy? Got here just in time to talk about how great this book is right here. So yeah, Gotham City Monsters, I'm not going to give it a blast or a stash just yet. I want to read the second issue. All in all, if I just only got this issue, I would have to blast it, because it just spent too much time telling us who these characters are, and that kind of need to happen. So for right now, I'm kind of on the fence with it. I thought the story itself was a little oversimplistic, but I feel like they want to hurry up and get to the team fighting the monsters. So I really kind of felt that the pacing in this was a little off for me. It would speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. But other than that, I mean, I would definitely check out issue number 2. So definitely check that out. If you haven't checked out Monsters or Gotham City Monsters number 1, definitely check it out. I'll be picking up issue 2. We'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, I was really kind of lost in this book just because of the whole, was Frankenstein part of the good guys? Is he not part of the good guys? You know, because I think, okay, they're introducing Killer Croc, they're introducing the vampire, the killer whale, you know. I think, oh, okay, they're introducing. All of a sudden, Frankenstein blasts the baboon in the face, which I thought was kind of cool. You know, he's beating the crap out of him. I guess a baboon need to thrash a good baboon once in a while. And then he takes and slices the vampire in half with the sword. So I was kind of lost on what was going on. I'm kind of interested about the character at the end because I don't know anything about him. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have anything else to pick up this week, this came out, like I was short of books, I probably would pick it up. Other than that, I probably would wait. I do like the fact that it is like a monster book, like as you said, like coming around on Halloween. That's always kind of cool to have those. But unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to be picking up issue 2. It's one of those. It's not a blast or stash for me either. It's kind of right in that realm that, you know, if I had time and I had money and I needed to read something, I'd read it. But other than that, I think I would just, I wouldn't pick it up. Get it in the trade or get it in the dollar bin. Okay, let's talk about. Oh man, let's talk about this book. This book is. So I had a couple books this week that I was on the fence on about number 1, and I'm super glad that I picked up issue 2. And this was one of them. Let me find it here. Where is it in my stack? I'm not organized like Joe. I don't have it all separated off by publisher here. There it is. And I actually went back to the store and bought it because it wasn't on my pull list because I was kind of like hesitant on it. I didn't even listen to your review, Joe. So it wasn't the reason I didn't go to pick. I picked it up on all my lonesome, and that is Punisher Kill Crew number 2. This was awesome. I actually loved this book. The first one we were all kind of like, what in the hell's going on? Why Punisher's, you know, kind of out of place a little bit. You know what his character's supposed to be. But this goes back to Punisher in that little miniseries. Yes, we are live, Double S. We're live for the time being, at least until next spring. That little mini story we got and the intro to all these other stories coming out of it, this is more of that Punisher in here. He just, the dudes at the beginning, he blasts one in the back of the head. He headbutts the ears off another one. He kidnaps the third one to lead him wherever he needs to go. I mean, he's just blasting fools left and right in this whole book. And that is just downright awesome. The other part that I laughed about, I was actually reading this on my lunch break today at work. So I'm sitting there giggling over there, and people are like, what in the hell does he do? It must really be a funny book. He's over there giggling at this damn thing. Was the part when it's meant to be a flashback, when he's at the diner with the kids, and he's telling the one kid, he says, you can't draw on the table, kid, because that's vandalism. And it says, what are you going to do, shoot me? And Punisher does a little dude. And the kid's like, oh, freaking out. Dude, I love that. I laughed out loud at that point right there. And then he goes on top of the drawing, the mechanical shark thing. But this was great. I love this. I love the art in it. The story was awesome. I'm so glad that I picked up issue 2, and I'm looking forward to number 3 for sure. Even though this is, some of the Punisher characteristics are not his normal, you know, they're kind of a funny thing, but I think it works in this interstellar galactic kind of story. I think it works great. So this is a stash. Oh, is it my stash of the week? Yeah, I think it's my stash of the week right here. Yeah, that's good. I loved it. I laughed. I cried. It was good. Punisher Cookie, where are you?
I agree with you. This was just so fun to read. We got the Punisher. He's off into the cosmos, and he's in what we really have here essentially is that archetype type story of a quest, right? And in this particular quest, he's actually picking up his team. Like we often see this in a Renaissance type story, right? And we're putting together a team, and it's absolutely funny. The kid draws a picture of the monster that killed his parents, and then this monster really looks like this. And I was just like, oh, that was just great. Take a kid's drawing and then still be able to identify the monster. I thought that was ingenious. Some other things I really liked about this, I love the fact that we got Froggy. Froggy. Daredevil. Yeah. Like, he's a lawyer, and Daredevil doesn't want to Punisher doesn't want to take him all the way back to New York because he's on a mission to drop these bodies of these monsters. So he's like, hop in the van. We're going to go do this. Froggy doesn't want to go. He just wants to go back to New York. He's got his own drama with Daredevil, but he ain't hearing it, or Punisher's not hearing it. He's got a mission to go do. I love when, what is it? The Ghost Rider, Cosmic Ghost Rider, and Punisher pass each other as they're flying through space. He just kind of looks back at him. I thought that was great. And then, of course, at the end, the big twist on this one is it looks like the next member of their particular quest is going to be the Juggernaut. So I like this because it fits in that very niched group where in a band of people on a quest, right, you always get the one that doesn't really belong, right? And that's Froggy in this one. Then you always get the big tough giant thing, the thing that's bigger, tougher. So now we have Juggernaut, and then we obviously have a sadistic leader. I don't know how you can not read this and be like, this is stupid. Yes, it is, but it's so stupid in a good way. It is just beautifully written, and the artwork in it really gets your attention. Anything deep going on here? No, and I honestly believe that's what makes it good. It's just violent. It's awesome, and it's definitely a different take on a typical quest type story, and I enjoy that. So yeah, definitely hard stash.
Yeah, there were a couple other great lines in this when he goes to find, he's going to rescue Foggy, and he tells that one elf-looking dude, he says, "Stay here, I'll be back." He says, "Don't worry, I won't go to anywhere." And Punisher, whack, snaps in the back, and no puns.
No puns.
That and the conversation between him and Foggy driving through the van through space, like, we're in a van. Isn't there a vacuum? And he said, "Yeah, I stole some, black Bifrost." And it shows like a little cutaway of his van in the back. Gun, 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 gun. Tire, time bomb, black Bifrost. That was kind of cool, too.
That was hilarious. I love it. Because, that would be the first thing you would ask reading this kind of book. Like, oh, they're just driving through space because, comic books. No, they kind of have a legitimate reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. So you're up with your pick. I'm going to do a quick little tell everybody we're live through Facebook and Twitter while you talk about our next book.
Okay, let's talk about the next book. What do we want to talk about? I'll go ahead and talk about Spider-Man real quick while you do that. Okay, so we got Spider-Man, and we got a typical thing that they do in Spider-Man. This is issue number 29. If you're looking for a whole lot of action in this one, you're not going to get it. There is some, but not a lot. Basically, all we're dealing with in this is how busy people are, right? And I think I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that's something that we're related to with Spider-Man, like all the pressures of the world that are constantly being dumped on him, right? He's a student. He does his extracurricular activities. He has to maintain a relationship and be there for the other person. Plus, he's got an aging guardian that he has to visit on a regular basis. Plus, he has obligations to his family. And in this particular one, he has an obligation to his sister. I forgot that Spider-Man, Peter Parker, had a sister. Like, I totally forgot that whole spy thing that they did way back in the day.
Yeah, that's new to me too. I didn't know it.
Forgot all about that. Well, Peter Parker's sister in this one is a super spy, and she has like Falcon's wings or whatever. She can fly around. whatever the case may be. And he even tells you the typical trope that happens in here. He's got to be back there to take her to the airport at a specific time, but he needs to go run and talk to Aunt May. And he's sitting there telling you it always happens. It always some villain, some way, some shape, some form. And sure enough, the sister pops in with a, yeah, I need your help with something, right? Apparently her partner / lover, which workplace romances never work, but whatever, has been captured, and he's being tortured by the chameleon for information and knowledge. I think it's good the chameleon came back. We kind of got a hint of that a few issues back. And basically, they're just trying to get spy information from him. They don't really tell us what exactly it is, but they ultimately end up killing him, which distraughts Mrs. Parker's perception, right? She is mad. And of course, Peter Parker, because he has to go do all this as Spider-Man, ends up missing taking Mary Jane to the flight, which she's going to California to be in a movie. So she's going to be gone for a while. At one point, at the beginning of the story, he's talking with Aunt May, and Aunt May's like, you know the answer, you know what you have to do. And she slips him something in one of the panels, and they don't really make any reference to it until the very end. And you find out it's actually a wedding band. And he's sitting there all depressed because he failed Mary Jane once again. And now he's starting to doubt himself. So really, is this a good story? Well, yeah, for the same reasons Peter Parker and Spider-Man's always been a good story. He's an awkward kid in extraordinary circumstances with a lot of existential problems in his life, and he has to deal with a lot of that internally. And I think it really showed that in this book. Other than that, it's your basic Spider-Man story, and it even kind of makes fun of itself. It goes meta a little bit. So all in all, I can see how most people are just like, oh, this is just a filler issue before they get on to the next good thing. Maybe we'll get some Kindred here in the future again because they spaced that character out way too much. But all in all, I can see where people would have a problem with this. But as far as relatability goes, I mean, how many things do you have going on any given day in your life, and you have to be someplace in time? I know my life. I always, and my wife calls me out on it. My wife always has to play second fiddle to the next thing that I'm involved in, whether it's one of the organizations I'm a member of. When I was in the military, she definitely took second seat. Friends, obligations, other family. Huh? Like, I could be laying down with my wife right now instead of drinking beer with you, talking about comic books. You know, that stuff happens, and a good, strong relationship can always survive that. So the question is, can they survive it? That's always been a question in the Amazing Spider-Man verse. Let's find out. I'll get the next issue. It's a stash.
Okay.
Type everything up you need to type.
Yeah. I was done. I was done a while ago. Yeah. Just tweeting out saying we're live on Twitter and putting that on Facebook too. So the book I want to review or talk about is King Thor #1. You said you didn't pick this up, and I was actually surprised. Now, but have you been reading Thor at all?
I haven't picked up any Thor this year or last year because there was so much. It's kind of hard to juggle it. Like a Thor story is a Thor story, right? I get it, but I know I've been missing out this year, so I feel bad for that. But yeah, I didn't read it.
So in the story, we only really have a few main characters. We have the Girls of Thunder, which I guess they are the
granddaughters of Thor.
Yeah, okay, that's what they are. So King Thor and then Loki, the All Butcher. So those are the three main groups of people in this story. We have the Girls of Thunder go into this library trying to find information about what's going on. They end up running to this the librarian, or one who's taken place of the librarian, because the librarian had died many millennia ago, and so he's just there still trying to maintain the library. And he's getting kind of forgetful. He says, I'm the god of, and he goes, I can't remember, it's been so long. And so he's explaining to them what they're there for. Lady of Thunder says, now by the diamond moons of whatever, so I'm not going to probably pronounce that, now all the black and necklace sword is gone too, and then he ends up getting attacked. And so he's laying there kind of bleeding out a little bit. The girls are fighting back. We don't know who it is. And then he ends up standing up, and he says, I realize what I'm the god of, and I think it's a god of bombs or something like that. He ends up blowing stuff up. But the main focus on this book is Loki and King Thor. It's just a battle throughout the whole book, and it's just full of action. And Loki's telling him basically, and they're arguing back and forth. Loki's saying, I killed father. I told him, I whispered everything in his ear, all my sins, essentially. I'm the one that killed him on his last breath because I told him that last thing that put him over the edge and that killed him. And then Thor's like, no, you didn't. I killed father. And they're fighting, they're stabbing each other, they're running each other through with the sword, and they're fighting through space, through into the sun, I believe, on different planets. The one great scene is Thor ends up throwing his hammer and says, go to the nearest star, and Loki's like, you think that this is going to be able to bring you power, you heating up your Mjolnir? And he says, no, but I think this is going to hurt, and this is a planet of napalm. Boom, drops a hammer, and the napalm just, boom, blows everything up. I mean, it's just a great fight after fight after fight. So there's the outcome of the napalm right there, just blowing a whole chunk in the planet. Nice. And they end up tumbling down to what looks like almost like a primitive planet. There are people out there wearing like little toga skirt things, and they're laying there pretty much almost all beaten. Thor's run through numerous times, has stuff sticking out of his chest. Loki's about to play that final card of killing him. Then he gets stabbed through the back of the chest, through the back, through. And then it says, then you hear a voice, two omnipotent brothers squabbling each other while all of existence withers around them. This is exactly why I've always despised your kind. And then we have the reappearance of Gore the God Butcher from, I think it's Thor, God of Thunder. I think that's that run. But this was great. A lot of action throughout it. A lot of, just that. I don't know if they have hatred, love for each other, Thor and Loki, and that's how this kind of is. Loki's just wanted to absolutely destroy him. But this is good. This was awesome. I actually loved it. This is my co-stash of the week right here for Thor, or King Thor. I think it's only a 6-part miniseries too, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, I heard Drew Manchu do one of his reviews on it, and he was just absolutely dumbfounded by the story, how he loved it so much. So
yeah,
I could see that.
Okay, let's talk about. Oh man, I don't know if I want to talk about. Oh, let's talk about this one. I know you absolutely loved it. Let's talk about Chastity.
Do we have to? Like, I'm trying not to cuss on live show.
Okay. You go ahead and start on Chastity.
All right, so Chastity, it's Blade without all the faults, because that would be wrong. There you go. So basically, we have a woman who is trying to be an actress of some sort, but she just happens to be half vampire. The explanation for it didn't make any sense. She gets all the benefits and none of the faults. Therefore, she doesn't crave blood. She doesn't need to stay out of the sun or anything like that. She gets all the benefits and none of the faults, and she's super badass. Like that's her thing, right? The problem with this book, though, is that, again, it's just another one of those indie books where we don't see any character growth. We're just expected to say, ooh, okay, she's a hero. So you do. And then you get this really bad storyline where she's constantly talking to herself, talking about how she should have known that this was going to happen. So she goes to an audition, I believe it was, for a bit part in the middle of nothing, and realizes that to keep the room hot, to keep everybody drinking water, because the water is drugged. And the entire time we just keep hearing about how she should have known this was going to happen. People bust in with some trank guns and trank them all. There's your story. That's it. That $5 right there. That's it. That's all I got. So, needless to say, this is a huge blast for me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So, what I understand, this is not a new character. I guess it's had other volumes before. I didn't know that either. I picked up the Clayton Crane cover just because it was kind of cool, But the same thing, I'm reading through it, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I didn't make the connection of like her as a female Blade. But yeah, that is definitely what it is. She talks about, she can go into sunlight, but yet during the dark, she's a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. She has her powers are a little bit more But
yeah,
she's auditioning for a burlesque show. I think that's what it is. And I'm like, come on, man, this is just absolutely lame. And then the whole getting drugged and then taken off somewhere we don't know yet. When I read the solicit for it, I thought, nah, this could be kind of cool, but freaking many days of our lives kind of crap going on.
yeah.
And I think that
this is why I don't read solicits. Like, I just stopped reading because they're all lies.
And it's a blast.
Hard blast.
Let's talk about another book that that this is the third volume on. That's Trees. This is Three Fates. So I have no history of this book. I mean, no backstory at all of what's going on with this book. This is by Warren Ellis and Jason Howard. Usually they're a pretty decent creative team. They did Cemetery Beach recently. They've done the other 2 volumes on this. And so essentially what it is, we get a little bit of a backstory. 11 years ago, this husband and wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend are fighting. He's headed out in his tidy whities. He's yelling, screaming, F you, go to hell. And then all of a sudden this big shadow appears above where he is outside, and he is crushed with, I don't know if it's a giant tree or what it is. I mean, it's just this massive thing that lands down on top of him, crushing him. So then it jumps ahead. Maybe that's the backstory from the other 3 stories. I don't know, trying to catch any reader up maybe that doesn't know what's going on. But it goes today. These things are just sitting there. I guess nobody knows what they are. Nobody's asking what they are. They already know because they're not relaying that to me as a reader. They did up finding a dead body by one of them. We find out this one woman's a cop, so she's going out to investigate. And let's see. This is a weird symbol inside. She's taking pictures of. He's like pretty cut up, missing a whole bunch of teeth. And then they have this weird robot thing that's able to go out and essentially assess the crime scene for him, pick up the body, do all of the investigating right there, looking at the body, just trying to figure out what the cuts caused and all that, or what caused the cuts and everything. So, and then they find out he's from out of town. Nobody knows who he is because they live in a pretty small community. So they figure, okay, let's go to the train station. That lady knows everybody who's coming and going into town, and they go there and she's talking to them, and they say, nope, nobody's new. Come in. Nope. You sure you don't want to have breakfast? Let's sit down and have some breakfast. And she says, no, got to go. I'm on the job. And we find out that this little old lady and her son do know who he is. They came to town, and they're just lying to this police officer. That's kind of how it ends with
what's the name of this book?
Trees, Three Fates.
Okay.
Says the fate of this entire town relies on her thinking everything is normal, and the moment she decides everything is not normal is the moment you're going to have to kill the main character. So
sounds like an episode of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, kind of. It kind of has that feel to it. Like I said, I don't know. I have no clue on. No clue on his characters. Were they in the other 2 stories? I don't know. I kind of wish I would have had a little more backstory on that jumping into it.
Well, the rest wants to know, would you have breakfast with that lady?
Would I have breakfast with that lady?
No. Yeah, the one you're talking about in the comic book there.
No, she's old. She makes something really horrible.
Bubba, you're old. What are you talking about?
I'm not that old. 43 on Wednesday. Last Wednesday. It would have been nice to have maybe a page in here with a blurb on there, just saying what had happened previously, so I know. But Warren Ellis usually is a decent writer. Jason Howard, he's got some decent art, but it's a blast for me. What about you, Joe? What do you got next?
We're gonna do the blow up thing. Do the blow up thing.
I'll do the blow up thing.
Do the blow up thing. They want to see the blow up thing.
There we go.
Well, let's go ahead and get this
eyebrow.
Let's go ahead and talk about it.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, this is Batman number 78. For you that are still buying this, like me, I'm sorry. You were robbed. So if you don't know, in the previous issue, Alfred had his neck snapped and killed, and this story has nothing to do with that whatsoever. We do get a guest appearance from Tom Selleck in this. I thought that was awesome.
You took it right out of my mouth.
There's Magnum PI right there. That's Magnum PI. Thank you, Magnum PI. He's been working out. So apparently, Bruce Wayne wakes up and they decide to go on a vacation or training thing. I don't, doesn't really explain it in the book. It doesn't matter. It's comic books. Don't overthink it. Because when we first look at it, it's like just page and page of them sitting on some exclusive beach someplace having a good time. And then out of nowhere, they're like in costume climbing up a mountain. Like, dude, you don't have to get dressed up in your superhero costume to go rock climbing. Like, you didn't have to do that. Catwoman's independent, and she has to constantly tell us that she's independent. And Batman's confused about if he loves or doesn't love her. We get a lot of that. We're also at a 5-star hotel with scenic beaches and everything, and apparently they couldn't spring for an extra bed. Cheap. They make out in the ocean, kind of, then swim off. Then we're back to Tom Selleck hanging out at the bonfire, and we hear more stuff about lateness and love. We throw boomerangs at Catwoman. Nobody cares. I'm still trying to get this, and I can't get this out of my head. Maybe I'm just being picky. Please tell me in the chat if I'm being picky. But like, we constantly see Catwoman walking around in her stilettos in the sand. I've never worn high heels before, so I take that back. Twice in my life I did, but never.
That's for a different show.
That's a whole nother show. But like, wouldn't that be kind of hard in the set? Like, I don't know how that works. Somebody ask your wife. I'm scared to ask mine. She'll beat me up. And then we find out, oh my God, we really do love each other, so we're gonna kiss. And we're gonna kiss some more because Tom King doesn't know how to write a freaking story. This is so bad. Like, this is horrible. All right, so here comes the good part, right? I should say something nice. I get where Tom King's trying to go with this. And I kind of mentioned this over at the Comic Core in a private chat one time. He's trying to go with this type of philosophy where the perspective of love is both the tragedy and the comedy of life. And he's trying his best to mirror those things together because the jokes that were in here still didn't come off as jokes. They came off really bad. But that's ultimately what he's trying to do. The problem is this particular point of philosophy does not translate well, or at least in my belief, it does not translate well into a comic book because comic books don't have micro expressions that can be used. You don't get the affection. You don't get the sincerity of it, right? It's mostly visual, right? And what little bit of literature or dialect you do throw in there, actually the less is worse in this scenario. So that didn't happen. So it just came off as two people saying very few words to each other and basically just showing how rich they are, that they can go on a vacation. It didn't work out because there was no dialogue to go with it. And that's where this failed. Also, you made no reference of the entire city of Bane thing going on, so we don't even know if they know that Alfred's dead yet. I guess we'll find out in the next issue, and of course we'll pick it up because who doesn't like to see a sink ship or a sinking ship? Like, we'll watch this disaster happen. I watch fires all the time. I'm memorized by them. But this thing is just so bad that it's like, you can't help but rubberneck it, and I'll keep picking it up. Why? Because now, yes, in the chat, you're all talking about King being replaced. He will be replaced right before 100. I think it's like 85 issue.
Yeah, 45, something like that.
He's going to get replaced. But the truth is, what are you going to do at issue 85? How are you going to salvage this dumpster fire that we've already started, that very few people like? Now, I do get that some of, especially the viewers over on my channel, I do have two in particular. They're enjoying the love story stuff, and I can understand where they're getting that from. But these two particular people are also very heavily into literature, like poems and stuff like that. I get where they're coming from. That's where we kind of talked about the whole philosophy of the perspective of love. It's very predominant in that comedy and tragedy. And we all agree that it's not being translated very well. But if you read a lot of heavy literature, you can kind of fish it out of there. I still don't. It's still a blast for me. Do the explosion thing before I end. So it's a blast for me. I can't get behind this. I'm sorry. You had a good preface where you left everybody on a high with, oh crap, Alfred's dead. Robin is cuffed up. What's going on? And then all of a sudden you just interjected the most weirdest love story ever in the middle of it. It's so inconsistent. I just don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of quote what I did last week. Tom King, you can kiss my ass. This is horrible. It was great. It was starting to pick back up, and we're all like, "Wow, this is good. This is what needs to happen." And then we have this, and you took it right out when it said Tom Selleck. I kept hearing the Magnum PI theme run through my head the whole time. He's wearing that fake little mustache, that blue shirt, and a blue hat, and a Hawaiian shirt. Oh my God! The only positive thing I could say was Clayman's art was awesome. I think he has some great art.
Yeah, the art's carrying the story. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think Bruce Wayne's awake. I think this is all still a dream. I mean, he's been going in and out of that this whole time.
So help me God, if this turns into just one big dream, on my video, I will have a bot because I've been saving all these Batmans. I've not put them in an auction yet. I'm saving them all. I own a grenade launcher. Like,
is that an M203? Is that what that is? M203?
No, I own an M79.
Okay. Is 203 a grenade launcher?
It is. It fits on the AR-15s. Mine's separate.
Oh, okay. So you have your own little separate one. I do gotta ask. Now,
things.
You could say comic books on this, to answer my question, but you got to think of that would be hard. So they're climbing that mountain, right, with no equipment at all, right? How the hell does that cape not blow him off that freaking rock?
I try not to overthink it. I don't get the point of climbing the rock in your outfits. That doesn't, like, if you're on vacation, you're rock climbing. Like, everybody does that. You don't put on a cosplay costume to go do that. It didn't make any sense.
When does Bruce Wayne have time to work out? There's no way that he keeps that shape without working out like 5 hours a day.
And he's working out 5 hours a day.
Maybe
working out on top of good old Catwoman.
Maybe he's actually in a coma and they're working his body, But God, that was horrible. I did like that splash page toward the end when they're on the beach. There's Batman and Catwoman kissing. That was kind of a cool picture. I thought, I like that. That's kind of cool looking.
It's nice to know you're sentimental.
I am, yeah. But other than the art, what a turd! God, let me go back. Let me do this here. I need to find a little turd emoji for crap like that. Look how I didn't shut it off. I kept it going. So, man, God, what a mess that was. Let's talk about. Let me see on my list here.
By the way, great comments in the room. We got, when is Tom King off of Batman? I can pick it up again. Right about 85 is what we said. Is Tom Selleck from the TV series Friends or 3 Men and a Baby? He's from Magnum PI. Like, it's straight up Magnum PI. It's a straight ripoff. They traced that Joker. Has DC announced King's replacement yet? I believe it's Bendis. I'm not sure. Is it Bendis?
I hope not. I really hope not.
Or are they going back to Snyder? I'm not sure. I have to look at it. The cape is bulletproof, microfiber, virtually weightless. Yeah, Kevlar. Nice.
I did read an article. I don't remember where it was saying that Tom King's going to kill Batman off at the end of his run.
That's when we find out the entire thing was a dream because he'll wake up.
Yeah. or he's on
figure that one out.
he's on a life support and they're yanking it. Let's talk about Venom.
Ooh,
Let's talk about good stuff.
Lots of symbiote stuff this week.
Yeah, this I know you got a few more on the list that we talked about on the off air that I missed, but Venom number 18. This was pretty dang good. I actually enjoyed this quite a bit more too. Has a little more backstory on Sleeper and kind of how he's trying to find his way back to Earth and how he ended up finding Dylan and Normie. And he's sitting there talking. It got kind of a gruesome part too. He's talking about his host, and he reveals his host, and his host is dead. He's been dead for quite a long time. He's just kind of using his body as the form, you know. So that was a really cool reveal. And then he's getting ready to kind of maybe go on to Dylan, finding that new host. And then he gets blasted from the back by the Reed Richards, Ultimate Reed Richards, because Reed Richards thinks he's a bad guy. He doesn't think he's a good guy because he's another symbiote coming to destroy or to kill Dylan. And so he ends up capturing him. He has all of the other symbiotes in little glass jars. And Dylan's saying, "No, we've already told you. You're not doing anything until Eddie and Peter Parker are back. We're not doing any tests. We're not doing anything." But he ends up throwing the one kid from the symbiote family in there to get the codex off him. And he's like, the kid's screaming, "Oh God, please, it hurts." And he's like, they shouldn't be conscious at all. Well, that's interesting. So, Ultimate Reed Richards just doesn't give a rat's ass. He's just doing an experiment like Reed Richards does. Mm-hmm. So Dylan runs off. He's telling Normie, "Hey, I got a plan. We need to get the hell out of here." They come back loaded to the gill with weapons. And Reed Richards, pissed off, says, "You're not talking about that way. I'm doing what I want. I don't have to listen to you." And Dylan says, "You're about to be a little busy." And he goes to shoot him. Not Reed Richards. He's going to actually shoot the containers behind, which hold all the symbiotes. So they end up attacking Reed Richards, and they become, except for the only symbiote that didn't escape was the Sleeper. He's still in his little container, all like, "What about me? I didn't get out of here." And he becomes this big hybrid of all four symbiotes attached to Reed Richards. I mean, being like a symbiote is probably are creepy enough, but let's add the elasticity of Reed Richards onto that too. That's got to be even a little bit more. So they're chasing Dylan and Normie out of the building, and they're talking about Dylan thinks that he's after Normie, but he's not really after Normie. He's after Dylan. And Dylan gets so pissed off, you see like a little glimpse of something. You don't know what it is yet. And Reed Richards, there you are. And all of a sudden, Reed Richards gets punched in the face by a big yellow orange streak, smacked in the face by something red, white, and blue. And it says, "Excuse us, son. Maybe might if we cut it. We got Thing and Spider-Man and Wolverine coming in." What a great ending to that. That was awesome. This is still good. And this is like, I think Kate is ending this too on 23, 24, 25. But this Venom run's been awesome throughout, and this was a stash for me this week.
Yeah. All right. So this is my pick of the week. I absolutely enjoyed this story. I love Donny Cates, how he gives you just enough stuff, and something's going on in the background. And you're waiting for that issue that explains it to you, and he just won't do it. Like, he'll just tap it a little bit. And this kind of brings up that whole controversy between cameos and first appearances later on when we actually do see this happen. Like, we know it's there. We kind of got a cameo of it today. We know he's objectively different in some way, shape, or form. We just don't know what that is. I thought that was great. And you were absolutely right. They actually, I didn't know much about Sleeper. Wasn't a big Sleeper follower back in the day, or back in the issues that came out. I think I have them. I don't think I ever got around to reading them. I'll have to now. I thought that was totally creepy, the way he just showed the skull inside of him. Thought that was great. The blast from the back. Also, now the maker, I believe is what he's actually called. We'll just call him not Reed Richards.
We call him Maker because I think that's what it gets referred to. But I always kick back to Reed Richards.
So now he's the second person to actually have 4 symbiotes involved in. First one being, of course, Deadpool, which is why
Oh, that's right.
that one later. So he's now the second, which is really cool. This whole kind of mad scientist experimentation thing that he wants to do, I really, really like that. Moving on. Oh, hey, thanks for coming in, Comic Core. Appreciate having you here. Yeah, him having all the symbiotes in him, I mean, that's just, I like what they're doing with this whole Carnage and Venom thing. They're really stepping up their game there, and they're actually making it kind of creepy, and you're engrossed in the story. And that's what's great about this. This little thing here where you kind of see him changing a little bit. Granted, it's just his eyes. You can blame that on artisan technique if you'd like, but we know it's there. Like, we know something's there. It's constantly being hidden at, and I'd like to be teased a little bit. And then we find out our superheroes are coming in, so I'm kind of curious how that's going to relate to the story, because this is one of those things where if you add too much to it, it can get a little overwhelming, because there's a lot of symbiote stuff going on here, and there's a lot of this internal conflict with Normie and Dylan and Eddie Brock. Like, there's a lot of personal stuff there as well. But yeah, I can't wait. This has just been a good read. And look, I know we can't pick our blasties until the end of the year, but damn it, this series isn't going to be it. Like, what I want to do is see Donny Cates write something really bad, like just the worst comic book he's ever written, and it's objectively bad by the majority of people out here. That's going to be the collector's item, because this man is just gold with a pen in his hand. This has been beautiful, and he's supported with great artists. Man, you almost think that like Tom King could learn a lesson from him. Oh, did I just say that? That's sad.
So I got a question then about Reed Richards having the 4 symbiotes attached to him. Now he has the Codex on there. Now, do each Venom, so each symbiote has is it the Codex different for each person it bonds to? Or is it like, oh no?
The Codex hasn't really been like explained to us. We just know that it's a DNA goobly-gook, right? Might as well. It's something on their spine that when they take it from them, not only do you get that Codex from that particular symbiote, but you also get some of the abilities from people, as we learned in Symbiote of Vengeance. So we actually learned a little bit more about the Codex and how it exactly works in that issue, because that can be very complicated. They explained it over there a little bit. We'll talk about that in a second. But the whole point of gathering the Codex is you're actually grabbing the essence. So think of it as did you ever watch The Dark Crystal?
Yeah.
Remember how they used to drink the essence? You know, okay. Codex. Simple way to put it. It's the Codex.
Do you want to go ahead and talk about that symbiote of Vengeance? Is that the one you talk about that gets a little more backstory on that Codex?
I'll go ahead and hit them both, though.
Okay, cool.
Because it's right there along the same line. So we'll talk about Absolute Carnage and versus Deadpool first. This is such a stupid story. And it's so good. It's just great silliness. If you're not caught up yet, basically Deadpool was at this point one of the only people that had 4 symbiotes inhabit his body. So therefore his codex and his spine is very, very valuable. It's like the grand effect. It's the unicorn that you want, right? So what happens is Carnage infects, let me make sure I get this right, Will-O-Wisp, Contortium, and Freak. These are villains from back in the day. Will-O-Wisp can change his mask. Contortium's kind of like the bad guy. And Freak's is weird, right? And they're all monster, right? And we constantly get this artwork that just tells us evil. Like, it just speaks evil. So they're all going to go get Deadpool, and he's at his Deadpool's safe house and comic book store. And it's a secret, by the way.
with the big flashing light above it.
Flashing lights and everything. And it's a comic book store. On the inside, there's all kinds of just homages for all types of characters in it. And in the back room, he's got all of his weapons and guns. And he sees on a perimeter alarm that the bad guys are coming for him, right? The ones we mentioned. In the meantime, Spider-Man gives him a call and says, hey, buddy, you want to come over here and help me and Venom out? Because in the last issue, they were in a battle downtown. And Deadpool's like, oh, whatever you need me, blah, blah, blah. He kind of points out because in the last issue, Spider-Man was kind of a jerk to him. But then he realizes that these people are about to attack. He's like, hey, buddy, I got to take care of this. Explosions, bombs, all the great MacGyver stuff that you love in a good story where you're battling your villains. We get a little science lesson in here about mass and how mass can be affected. I thought that was interesting. Pretty smart. Some people should have learned it in 7th grade, but I realized not all schools in the United States are the same. You know, if you were in Virginia, you'd be smarter.
So you're saying schooling out here in Oregon not great? Is that what you're saying?
So moving on, Deadpool ends up dispatching the 3 villains just in time for Carnage to show up and say, give me that spine, right? Give me that backside, if you will. Now, here's my question about this whole dark side, or not dark side, but Carnage and Deadpool scenario. Since the 4 symbiotes entered Deadpool, how many times has he been burned to ashes, blown to tiny bits? How much of that spine is really still there with the Codex? Like,
maybe that's because it's part of him. Maybe that just comes back each time.
That's the assumption, right? But I think it would be funnier if he rips out the spine and realizes that, oh, no, it's not actually there. It just, that seems like a Deadpool story to me. Like,
yeah.
Oh, surprise, folks, we just wasted your time. Now, you definitely want to read this story before you go rolling up into this one right here. This is Symbiote of Vengeance. This is a great story. Look, if you're into all them Ghost Rider stories where they talk about all the past Ghost Riders, you get a beautiful splash page in here of like just 2 dozen different Ghost Riders from throughout history. It's just beautiful. But basically, this story takes place where we have a female Ghost Rider who's down in South America at a particular village. What I found interesting in this particular story is she actually wiped away all the sin in this village. And because she did that, everybody turned into mindless slaves. And I thought that was an interesting take on that. I think, I don't know why, I can't really find a philosophical point to it, but it kind of made sense. It didn't, I'm not saying that it made them boring or anything like that, but when she realized that she actually influences people in that horrific way, you should never do that. She devoted her life to protect all these people. Well, Carnage is hanging out down there because he wants something. So what does he want? Mayhem, chaos, and also one of the Ghost Riders has had a symbiote in him as well. So therefore, he wants that backside. So we get Danny Ketch in here. Danny Ketch actually gets visited by Johnny Blaze, and Johnny Blaze is the king of hell. And he's telling Danny Ketch, hey, you got to go help out Chica down in South America because she's in some trouble. So he blazes down that way. Get the pun? So he's heading off down that way, and he shows up just in time to see Chica and Carnage fight, which was awesome. I really like this female Ghost Rider. The fight ensues, and Chica ends up dying and going to hell. And Johnny Blaze is like, she's like, send me back. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm in charge, but I don't really know what I'm doing down here. Classic Johnny Blaze, right? And she's like, no, you don't understand. He goes, no, you don't understand. And she smacks him in the face. Often happens to me when I tell my wife I don't know how to do something. She points and says, do it anyway. So he's like, well, you could technically possess somebody. So she possesses somebody, gets back into the fight. Danny Ketches in the fight. And the people in the village come out and they start lighting up Molotov cocktails to throw at Carnage too. All right. This thing is just action-packed and everything makes sense in it. And I really love it. Even after they dispatch Well, they don't really dispatch him. There's also a scene in here where, again, he gets the codex from the female, and guess what? He gets the powers of the Ghost Rider for a second, and it just looks sick, awesome. He's even got a motorcycle. It is so just cool. Let me find that page. I gotta find that page. Yeah, there it is. Like, come on, you kidding me? That's awesome. So the battle ensues. They finally get him to run away. They don't actually beat him, but he gets away. Chica's got to go back to hell because that's a deal of possession. And this is the page that I'm talking about. I always like it when they do this. You got a little bit of every Ghost Rider going on in there throughout time and history. I just thought that was just epically awesome. When you kind of look through it and you can kind of figure out what era they're from. There's a Tyrannosaurus Rex with a flaming head. Like, come on, you can't beat that. So we got Carnage doing what he does best, causing chaos throughout the verse. And Drew Manchu's on his way. He just got off work, had to stay in close without notice. Hey, things happen, man. We're waiting on you. We'll catch you up. Other than that, both of these stories are a hard stash for me. I'm really enjoying this. I'm not one of those guys that likes hundreds of tie-ins. Like War of the Realms, I only picked what I thought I would be interested in, and I was very satisfied with that. But this Carnage thing, it's getting hard. Like, it's just so hard because there's so much good stuff. Anytime Carnage is in something, just that sick, maniacal love. One other thing I did want to note in this particular book before we move on, I know I'm taking a lot of time and I apologize.
No, you're good, man.
Something very interesting that happened in here, and I don't know, I don't want to say it spoke to me because I'm not that cheesy, but it spoke to me. Danny Ketch decides to do the Vengeance Stare and to Carnage. And, usually that always breaks down a person. They start feeling guilty or remorse or something to that effect. And it had no effect on Carnage. He legitimately started laughing while he was doing it. He thoroughly enjoyed all the horrible things that he's ever done. And that really spoke volumes to just how sick Carnage is. And I was like, you don't really see that a whole lot. That was kind of cool. Because now we actually have somebody that we cannot get behind. Like, we cannot be cool with Carnage. He's got to die. So I thought that was really smart. I'm glad I got these two tie-ins. Very happy with it.
Let's talk about, I'm going to talk about this book. You didn't grab it. This is Jonathan Mayberry's. I think he did the one zombie book about the tank, with the guy trying to get the tank across the
Road of the Dead or something like that.
Yeah, Road of the Dead. I think he's the same writer behind that. This was not nearly as good. I bought this, man. I mean, it was a number one, so I picked it up because I was going to give it a read. And this is Pandemica. And one of the main reasons I got it was because on the cover they show this woman with a gun, with kind of crouched down over this zombie burnt kind of body, with a baby in a jumper and a gas mask. So that was the main reason I bought this book. I wanted to see why that baby was in a gas mask, and I wanted to see more of that baby. But unfortunately, we don't get to see that baby. So we find out what it is. Essentially, there's this group, and they are poisoning the water sources. No, not Road of Bones. I think Joe was right. Road of the Dead. Of minorities. And so this guy's trying to essentially call them out for that, this politician guy, and he's saying, there's these groups that are getting poisoned. So it's this group and not this group, this group and this group. So the minorities are getting poisoned and dying off because people are poisoned in this water. And this big conspiracy behind it. And so that's what this is. And they get this team together to try to investigate what's going on. They try to kill the guy that's coming up with this conspiracy theory because he's actually speaking the truth, but yet they don't weren't able to go through with killing him all the way. So, oh god, and this whole thing is they're setting up a group of specialists. They're going to try to figure out what's going on to stop this other terrorist group from poisoning the water from these minorities. So the only little shot we get of the baby in the gas mask at the very, very end, I wanted more Baby in the Gas Mask. They didn't give it to me. They tease it here at the end. They tease it at the. Come on, focus, you little son of a. They tease it there, and they tease it on the cover of the next one. I want to know who the Baby in the Gas Mask is, but I don't know. It's just not for me. I didn't think it was that great. It's by IDW. Since you're not giving me Baby in the Gas Mask, I don't care. I'm moving on. That's a blast. Let me give my little no Baby Gas Mask.
So
You want to talk about another book? We're running. I don't think Drew's going to make it. Drew's not going to make it. We're 8 o'clock. We're an hour in. We're getting ready to start lightning round. Maybe Drew can jump in for that.
Run, buddy, run.
But the only problem is I have so many freaking books that I haven't talked about.
Yeah, I got tons of books too. I took a lot of time. I'm sorry. What you talking about?
No. I mean, that's the thing. We went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. It's just you just don't have enough time. Maybe I should cut back on what I'm freaking reading. Maybe I'll save a little money for my trip for my wife and I for next month.
You're not going to do anything interesting.
Instead of having this many books that I haven't read, that I haven't talked about.
Well, why don't you talk about another one since I had to talk about?
Okay, let me see. I got to find one that I kind of remember. Oh, I didn't even buy. I didn't read those books. I bought those for covers. And that's sad when you buy a book for a cover. I think I'm pretty much done doing that too. Let's talk about this. I guess if I can remember enough about it. This is Silver Surfer Black #4, aka no, Drew's not going to make it. Amateur Proctologist continues.
That's a good one.
This whole story is freaking weird. I mean, maybe this is where Cates is kind of losing it. I do like the fact that Null is kind of throughout multiple stories. You know, I like that. It really, I mean, especially if you have his first appearance, that's just going to go up in more value for one, because he's going to continue to do different multiple storylines. But this one here, I'm trying to remember it. He ends up essentially going to kill Galactus in this cube. He said, "That's it. I'm gonna cast you into the star. I'm gonna kill you." But he gets interrupted by the Watcher, and the Watcher's saying, "You can't do that. You're not allowed to." You know, and he's arguing with him, saying, "You're a Watcher. You're not supposed to tell me what I can and can't do. You're supposed to just watch." And you know, stuff happens. And the Watcher ends up saying, "You know, you have many lives." He talks about him. You have one where you die alone. You have one where you grow old with your wife and children. You have one where you live until the end of time and die wielding Mjolnir, which is cool because that's in that Thanos run. And then the one where you purposely kill the infant Galactus in his incubator. Silver Surfer's not agreeing with him, but he thinks, okay, maybe I can reach Galactus on a different level. And he tried maybe to reason with him, saying, "Hey, you kill billions and billions of people. I'm here to destroy you. Essentially, I can't let you live." And it's weird because Galactus kind of like turning tables on him. Aren't you kind of doing the same thing to me as what you're claiming I'm trying to do? So he kind of goes back and forth there. Oh God, I was talking to my wife about the art in this book. I said it is atrocious. I mean, there are some times where they have some open space, you know, and let the panel breathe. And there's times that it's so packed to the gills with stuff just to fill the page. It's annoying. Let's try. Yeah, this next page. Oh, this is concluding. So it's got one more book in there. To finish this run. God, the past couple have been hard. Unfortunately, they have not been great. I want to stash this because it is Donny Cates. We talked about This Man Can Do No Wrong. and maybe it's the art that's pulling me out of the story too. Maybe if I had a different artist, I might be able to like, oh, okay, I kind of like this. This is kind of good. I do like the duality of the Silver Surfer and Galactus, then going back and forth. That was kind of interesting. Saying, hey, you know what? We do need balance. Essentially, we need light and dark. Watcher was talking about that too. So maybe there's a little bit to that I can grasp onto, and maybe might finish that run out. I do like the end though when he's talking to Ego. He says, "I have what I need to end this. I will no longer curse the darkness, Ego." Doesn't Ego say something to him? Because then what will you do? And he says, "Burn." Now we don't know necessarily what that. At least I don't know what that means. Burn. That's kind of got me interested in this little hook, but other than that, I don't know. I don't know if I'm digging this very much. I'm gonna finish the run. I'm gonna clear it out and read the next one. But
yeah, it's only one issue.
What's that?
It's only one more issue.
Only one more issue. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think of Silver Surfer Black #4?
Well, first I should have known better, right? Because I went with the Immortal, and now that I'm looking at it, it just looks stupid. I'm not a fan of this particular art. For a while, I was on the fence, and it made sense. By the way, what is it? Night Tiger joined us in the room. What's going on, man? Welcome. I'm not a big fan of this type of. It almost looks more like graffiti to me that you would see in New York on the side of a train than it does actual something you'd see in a comic book. I don't ever remember, and I could be very, very wrong on this, but I don't ever remember seeing anything with Galactus before he's Galactus, like in this kind of form that he's in now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think they said something about this was his origin, or I don't know.
I got it. So the art drives me crazy. However, I love this story. Here's what I like about the story. This is nothing more than a play off of perspective of right and wrong. So if killing somebody is bad, then it should be okay to kill them, but doesn't that turn you into the killer? So therefore, the justification just makes an endless cycle at that point. It's a thought experiment. It's often used in psychology a lot. You see the same thing when you talk about if you could save lives, the trolley's going down the road and you have two options to make it switch tracks, but both the scenarios are to make you to be the bad guy at any given time. Another thought experiment that kind of falls in this lines is, okay, if you would have killed Galactus before he became Galactus and Galactus needs to happen in the universe, then maybe something worse would be Galactus. Same thing if you said Hitler, right? If you went and killed Hitler and somebody took Hitler's place, who's to say that guy couldn't defeat our troops and all that? Like, it would be a worse scenario. And you really don't know. So just jump into a conclusion like that. But the funny thing about this is it's all based off of social norms. I do like what Donny Cates is doing here, and he's taking social norms and he's throwing it out the window. He should do that because you're in the cosmos and the time infinicy of space. So there are no social norms. It's space. It's called space because there's a lot of it. Right? An infinite amount of it. It just goes on forever. So now he's forcing you to take that away, and he's forcing you to sit down and figure out what the best option is here. Because remember, Galactus, yeah, he's this horrible thing that eats worlds, right? But maybe some of those worlds should have been eaten. Maybe, whatever the if, we'll call it the if, whatever the if is at this point, never works out in your favor. So that's an interesting concept here. I like what Donny Cates is doing with it. And there are things that should be talked about and asked, because we all think that we can come up with a simple answer. But the truth is, what part of life is really that simple? Isn't there always more added onto a decision after it's made? I liked how that was addressed in here. I thought it was addressed very simplistically and very linear, which is a hard concept to do. I thought he did a great job of it. And I'm in love with this story. I love it. It hits me right there at that part where I'm constantly questioning things. It asks the same questions I do. But then I'm looking at this art and I'm just like, I don't care. Just just feel like I should just download the script and just read it. So it's a stash, but only for story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's one thing I like about having a show. You add another perspective for me. And go, oh well, shit, I didn't think about that part of it. So it's always great to have you on because I don't do the deep dives on that. I'm like, yeah, it's totally good. The whole color's good. I like Dave like. No, you're good. I like the perspective you bring to the book. That's one of the great things.
The thing about a comic book is a comic book isn't meant to be deep, right? It's always at a college level, reading level, right? It's always at that level. But the great thing about this is and even looking back at older comic books, I like how comic books have always. I mean, where do you get a story from, right? You always have to deal with good and bad, evil and good. And if you want to be edgy, you got to kind of twist it up a little bit. All this stuff is based off of stuff already, but bringing it to life the way a comic book does, I mean, you just can't find that anywhere else other than a comic.
I guess it's hard to find any kind of original story. They've all been taken from somewhere, whether it be Greek or mythology, all that fun stuff. So they're all stories that have already been out there. It's just how you twist it and how you make it your own, I guess, to some degree.
Night Tiger makes a very good point here. It's fascinating. Don Cates is a great writer. We absolutely agree with you here. Really makes you think, Mr. Cates. It's so nice that you're so polite that you call him Mr. Cates. We just call him Donnie.
Donnie. We can come on.
Makes my decision to buy new comics very hard. I could see that, but there's inconsistencies in Marvel art department. I try not to argue art or because I'm not an artist and I'm not a person that stares at art. I can just tell you what I feel about it. And this New York graffiti type art that's in this book, it's just not for me. And then there's some art styles that have just doesn't fit the story. And I'll talk crap about that. I'm mostly a story guy, not really an art guy.
Let's see here. Do I have any other understanding? I mean, we probably really should talk about powers of X, and I don't know, or powers of 10, or whatever. You want to talk about powers of 10?
We're not Roman. It's X.
I call it powers of X. I don't care. Go ahead and give us a rundown of powers of X. Go ahead, Joe. Are you reading Drew's comment?
I'm sorry?
I said, go ahead.
I was reading Drew's comic. He likes that kind of art, and I get it. It's why I don't argue art, because it's perspective. It's not my thing.
We know it's 10. We've heard Marvel say it's powers of 10, but Joe and I we're saying it's powers of X.
It's powers of X.
I don't care. It's about exponents. Yeah, I get that. Night Tiger also says, struggle with whether to buy that book or not, but when I know it's snowballing to buying many other new comics.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, go ahead and run us through the powers of X. Screw Drew, what he says.
All right, so House of X, Powers of X, it's hard to talk about one without talking about the other because they're very closely related. This one did that timeline thing where they talked about different timelines. And this one, we kind of get the origin story of Croa, whatever the name of the island is. And we find out that Cypher actually is the one in previous issues. We see all the technology there and how everything works. He's kind of the guy that figured that all out because his superpower is being able to communicate. Okay, I'll buy it. Spelling it doesn't help me pronounce it. I appreciate it, Jacko. So we find out that actually Apocalypse has something to do with the whole separation of Krakoa. That's it. Krakoa and its whole deal. Because he kind of pops in there. They talk about the blue guy, yada, yada, yada. And we kind of understand who actually made the technology there. We get a little beef on that. And that was pretty cool. I enjoyed it because even after reading the first one, that was one of my criticisms of it. I was like, I get it's different timelines because somebody reincarnated, but really, how did it turn into this? So we got that. So thank you for that. I should start off with. The very first story in here that we get is Magneto and Xavier. They're going to go have a discussion with Dr. Sinister. Now, let me be frank with everybody out there. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Sinister. He's my favorite character in the entire X-Men universe. I absolutely love the fact that he makes clones of himself. He's super genius when it comes to genetics, and his name says the rest. He's sinister. Like, he does not, zero luck's given. He's all about that. I really like this where they kind of were making fun of the cape with the guard. Like, oh, really, you're going to wear a cape? And then they talk to the first fake Dr. Sinister, and he's like, oh, I love your cape. Why don't I have a cape? And then when I guess we can go ahead and presume it's the real Dr. Sinister. When he shows up, he's kind of sort of wearing a cape. I like that. That was kind of weird. I like the weirdness of him. And then we get a bunch of mindless drivel about the different Sinister secrets and yada, yada, yada. We go into the story of Krakoa. I thought that was great. I did enjoy that. It really kind of made sense. But then we kind of got this weird story that kind of shot way up into the future. And they told this or kind of hinted at the story before. We get this, the Phalanx are now involved. They've been classic in the X-Men stories. And since you can't merge with I'm assuming they're human or some sort of humanoid of some sort, the gentleman in this particular story puts his conscience inside of a machine, and the Phalanx takes it, and things just get weird. Like, I don't really get this end story very much. I'm having trouble wrapping myself into it. But I kind of see where they're going with it, if that makes any sense. I'm not trying to make any predictions on it, but I do understand the relevance of it because everything's very time sensual in here, and that's their biggest thing in this. When you're dealing with reincarnation, constant keeping of memories, constantly restarting, constantly rebooting, at what point do you get to the future? And is McTaggart actually in that future that it even exists at this point? And it asks a lot of questions, and that's fine. I don't mind questions. But right now, I'm just not seeing the relevancy of it. I know what's going to happen. It's going to become relevant very quickly, and I have to jump back and pick up on those issues real quick. Going back to the chat real quick, Drew says language and communication is an epic superpower. Okay. Endless, useful. Okay, I can see where you're going with that. I get it, but is it really? I mean, you can still communicate with basic gestures. Like if you're hungry, you can be like, "Oh, food," whatever.
Yeah.
Food. When you're in Baltimore, you'll probably do this a lot. But ultimately, I think in the story, I like this, and I was a hard critic of this when the first issue came out because they were jumping all over the place. And it was hard to nail down the story. Now that we understand that we're dealing with a story, and I don't want to sound like Shrek, but there's a lot of layers to this thing. It's like an onion, right? There's a lot of layers to this, and it can be confusing, but I found it to be more of a challenge. And I'm kind of okay with the challenge. Make me read, make me think, make me understand. I'm cool with that. And this book has definitely done that. Plus this cover right here. I mean, come on. How can an ex-Army guy not get that cover? That was just awesome.
That's like the one. Is it the 1 in 10 or?
Yeah, this is the 1 in 10. So definitely a hard stash for me. I'm enjoying this, but this is definitely one of those ones where you jump on board with it. Like, you're in it for the long haul. You're into this story because ending it now, you just end up with a bunch of questions and just unsatisfied. Kind of like my prom date back in high school.
I didn't go to prom, so I wouldn't know. Uh, you don't know how glad I am to hear that you say you were confused by the last story in this. I'm like, oh, thank goodness I'm not such a freaking moron that I didn't get what was going on. I read through it like 3 times. Like, okay, I need to grasp it. I need to understand what's going on. Okay, I got the gist of it, but I still don't know what's going on. Triple S said that would be the sign for give me that backside, Joey. And there we go. Cypher is linked to technology through absorbing Warlock and is linked to nature through its communication with Krakoa.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, this book was good. I love the first story with Mr. Sinister when I love that cape. Why don't I have a cape? We talked to you about having a cape, sir, but blah blah. Kill him. That whole thing was great. Even the what is it? Secrets of Mr. Sinister, the all text pages those were pretty funny. A couple of them. The question I have here, so we have Cypher here, and Xavier talking on this planet, trying to communicate with Krakoa, right? So maybe it's just coincidence. I don't know, but if you look at Cypher's right arm, right, looks so there it is there. Very reminiscent of the Phalanx at the end.
Yeah.
So I mean, is that foreshadowing there, or is it? I don't understand what that is.
And this is where I may be confused on some things, but I thought there was in the previous stories with the Phalanx and Cypher. I thought there was a connection there. I got to go back and look at those issues because I know I had the first appearances of all that stuff. I would have to go back and take a look, but I thought there was a connection in the old storyline. I could be wrong, but for some reason that just sounds right to me. Even if it doesn't, it makes sense now if they're part of Krakoa in some way, shape, or form, or Krakoa actually forces or is actually in some way relevant in that time frame. Sure.
Yeah, Drew says 1,000 Year stuff is intentionally confusing. It's very theoretical, as they don't know if the hack they're using will work. I see that. I guess I understand that. And like I talked about a couple episodes with Hickman's other work, like Secret Wars, the one that came out in 2015. I was totally lost on what was going on when I was reading the book. Now that I have a little more history of what's going on, I went back and read it again. And I said, it makes sense, and I understand a little bit more. So I'm hoping that this is going to really do that at the end of this run here. I go, okay, now I get where they were going, and that's the hope, really. Should I talk about the really? I know you got this book. I think you said you read it. I didn't read it because my store said they had a very exclusive issue they were going to let me have to review for the show, and that is Loki #3. And I got the exclusive cut version. So
I got the regular version.
I didn't read it because I'm not reading Loki, and I just thought it was kind of funny. So here, take it, talk about it on your show. I'm only getting 2/3 of the story, so I have no clue what the other third is saying. So you could talk about Loki. Was it good?
Yeah, we could talk about Loki. I like this story.
That was a question. That wasn't a statement. That was a question.
So basically, we get some more of the story of the young lady that lost her significant other in this particular book. She was made to disappear because of Nightmare. So we get some good stuff from Nightmare. The interesting thing about this is look, I don't know if you want to call it first appearance or what the difference between a cameo and a first appearance is these days. Apparently, people don't own dictionaries anymore. They're very well defined, but you constantly hear that battle going back and forth. I don't even want to get into it. But in this one, we got the children of Eternity, and they're in the House of Ideas. Very classic storytelling. We find out Frosty's kind of running the Loki's kingdom very well. But to get back to this, we kind of find out that they're kind of like they're slight tricksters. They're not coming off as tricksters, and you don't actually find it out until they want to play a game. And Loki obviously wins the game. He comes back to Earth, and the game, The game's kind of weird. It's basically a game of chess. It's all they're really playing, just with them in it. That sounds confusing, but it's the House of Ideas. You can do whatever you want there as long as time stretches. Loki comes back to Earth. So the whole point of him coming back to Earth is to create his book. In the House of Ideas, everybody's got a book or several books. And the goal in this is to get Loki to be the hero of his own story, which kind of plays very well in this whole thing with it being a book. To be the hero of his own story and kind of create a better story. But there's a trick to this. What that will cost him, we will find out soon enough. And we end with him and Nightmare kind of battling it out in some way. I've always liked the character of Nightmare. I always thought he was very interesting because he gets to play off of not only people's fears, but people's desires too. Right? Because we all like to be scared in some way. So he's kind of that kind of character. I've always really liked that. I think it's the perfect villain if there's actually a hero and a villain in this story. I don't know. But between Loki and Nightmare, I think that's good conflicting interest that could possibly happen in this. And I think we got a very good story to be told here. The only thing I'm having a problem with it is it comes off very childish. And I get it. Comic books are technically for young adults and children. I'm not going to argue that. I enjoy reading them, so be it. But in this, there's so much that can be done here that would be so interesting, and a lot of perspectives that you can throw into this in psychology, philosophy, social sciences. Like there's a lot of things you can do with this because you have two very unique characters where good and bad are very blurred, just like humanity as a whole. So I really like that concept. I kind of hope that they kind of step it up in the next issue. Not that this was a bad issue. It's still a stash for me, but I'm really liking this. And I like the whole idea of eternity having children and naming them now and then. Like that in itself can be a playoff of words in itself on their own creation. Now and then, me and Mama went at it, whatever the case may be. But I really like this, and I like the fact that they were children that wanted to play a game, because that's kind of what Loki's known for, is to play games and trick people. So it's kind of good to see the tables turned on him a little bit. But yeah, just a stash for me. I really like this. This was pretty good.
I think we're going to go ahead and jump into lightning round now. I do want to give one shout out real quick to Astro Comics. So I talked about it in a video that I did a haul for my birthday, where my wife had bought me Justice League of America #1, the one I was looking at Rogue City Comics, a pretty low grade copy, but still, great copy to have in my collection. And then Rogue City Comics ended up giving me X-Men 137 as in their glass case. I was eyeing that book, so I got that book.
Nice.
I went into Astro Games the other day, picking up my books, and I was talking to him about trying to maybe sell some of his books online for him, some of his back issues they hadn't moved for a long time. I thought, hey, you know what? Maybe I have another audience. Maybe I can find other people who may be interested in these books. Because we all have those comic book stores we go through every single time, and you don't have anything that rotates, right? So I'm trying to help him maybe move some of his back issues. So he ended up saying, hey, you know what? For your birthday, I'm going to give you a book. He ended up giving me House of X #1, the premiere variant. So I do want to thank Aaron at Astro Comics for gifting me this. So I definitely appreciate that. And I'm going to jump right into... let's do my lightning round. Make sure I got my cover by separate from my other books. Canto #4. This is still continuing to be like a John Henson, not Muppets, but kind of not Jim Henson, kind of adventure story. I really think this is going to end up being, because they kind of kick back forth between a Human Knight and then Canto. I'm thinking that Canto is going to be like a toy in this Human Knight's pocket or something like that. I think that's how it's going to be, some kind of twist at the end of it. Coffin Bound #2. The first one was just weird enough that's like, hey, you know what? I need to pick up issue 2. I wish I didn't pick up issue 2. Issue 2 is freaking out there. It's not worth it. I'm not picking up issue 3. It wasn't good enough for that for me. So that's a blast, unfortunately. Midnight Sky by Scout Comics. This is an alien story where they take over the world. Humans have been dwindled down. You can figure out some of the alien by putting a flashlight on them, and they kind of see their true things underneath. Come to find out, they have to go through rigorous tests every time to come back to the library because of where these people are staying. One of the boys who've been there for years and years and years never had the light flashed on him. Find out he's been there all the whole time. He's an alien. So whatever. Prodigal Son, Guardians of the Galaxy. This was not as good as the other two Prodigal Sons. This had a more serious tone to it. It didn't have the humor in it that the other two had. It's a blast. This was.
I can't believe you blasted that.
I did. I didn't like it well enough. It didn't have the humor that I wanted. The other book that I'm glad I picked up issue 2 because I was kind of on the fence about issue 1, and that's Dark Age number 2. This is great. Gives a little more backstory of what's going on with these people, and we have a betrayal toward the end of the book. Apparently a long-time friendship is now changed. I didn't get to read this one. The solicit had a different picture in there. Now, it is the main picture right here, the color, but in the solicit, it was a hand-drawn, not colored in, like a rough-drawn picture. This is Watcher number 2. This is the one that's kind of a cross between Mean Girls and Poltergeist. Vamp number 1 by Mythos. It's vampires living in Las Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Kind of cool meat and potatoes scenes in there for Mike. I think Mike would like it. Cover buys this week. Well, this was not a cover buy. I ordered it and didn't realize it was a tie-in to a movie. I'm not a big fan of these movies, so I got a gift package headed to Mike, and I'll probably send this to him if he didn't buy it. And this is Blade the Iron Cross. It's part of, I think it's Puppet Masters.
Just
Mike
go to the box with me, and I'll save yourself some shipping. I'll take it over to
him. Yeah, he'll do that. Yeah. Well, you live like how far from him? Not far.
20 miles. Not even.
Wonder Woman 78. This is another pretty great Friesen cover. Kind of a strong Wonder Woman cover, I think. I normally read these, but I buy them. Oh my God, my voice cracked. Puberty is hitting. But I do like Linsner covers, and that's Red Sonja number 8. Invisible Woman number 3. I thought I had dropped this, but apparently it was still on my pull list. Adam Hughes, but probably won't read it. Black Cat number 4. Again, another one I thought I had dropped off my pull list, but there's J. Scott Campbell, Black Cat. But my cover of the week has to go to Art Germ with Catwoman number 15. I don't know if you've seen this cover, Joe.
Michelle Pfeiffer cover, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, what a great cover that is. Oh, pick of the week for cover. Those are my lightning round books. What do you got, Joe?
All right, we'll start with indies. Black Hammer and Justice League. I'm enjoying this, even though I'm kind of behind on my whole Black Hammer universe stuff. I'm learning about the characters in here. That's really good. Great surprise ending at the end of it, and we see kind of how similar these two universes are together towards the end of it. Dark Age, I love this. I picked up issue 0 for Free Comic Book Day. I picked up issue number 1. This picks it up right off of there, and they kind of made sense in this, talking about the preppers and the gun owners, why they didn't survive after all the metal went away, because that's pretty much what they relied on. That actually kind of made sense. Reaver. Oh, my good Lord. Reaver 3. Why anybody would just drop this comic book, I don't know. This is a great quest story. A lot of good, interesting stuff going on in here. You get to see a wildling basically burn down an entire kingdom. It's kind of awesome. And I picked up Soft Wood, which is nothing more than a play off of Heavy Metal, and it's the exact same comic book. A lot of just weirdness in it. I don't much care for it. That's All that was a stash except for softwood. That is a blast. So, I mean, you got a lot of stuff for $8, but I can do without any of it. Guardians of the Galaxy's Prodigal Son. I love this story. This was great because the Prodigal Son always kind of came off as kind of goofy or whatever, and in this one to actually see what actually touches his buttons the most, and to see that kind of devastation and realize he's actually somebody's stepson, the king's stepson. Oh, the action in this, the horror, and then his absolutism at the end of the day, where, oh, y'all got a problem with me for my father dying and trying to convict my brother of it? Yeah, that happened in this book. All right, I'm going to destroy the planet. Y'all may want to leave. I liked that. That was kind of awesome. Moon Knight, #1 annual. You're probably thinking, I don't remember any other Moon Knights coming out. Why are we having an annual already? Because it's Marvel and they need to put a #1 on something. However, this was a good story. I like this with everything that DC, or I'm sorry, not DC, but with the Disney Channel Plus thing going on, getting caught up on Moon Knight. This is a great issue to do it, to kind of understand what is Moon Knight. And again, just like Ghost Rider, he's been around since the beginning of time. We actually see the first Moon Knight in this one. And I'll be honest, it was kind of cool. This story basically focuses around the absolutism of sacrifice and faith is the best way to put it, because faith always demands some sort of sacrifice in it, regardless of what that faith is. This kind of breaks it down for you real quick, and I thought they did a great job doing it. Let's see here. Moving on to DC, we talked about that. Detective Comics just closes out the arc with what is it? Deadshot on the island with Batman and them constantly battling it out. We do some MacGyver stuff on the island to beat him, and we find out that our World War II vets actually don't want to go back to the U.S. They just kind of want to hang out on their island. So Batman being Batman drops some care packages. And I explained it on my own video, the significance of a lot of the literature he drops off to them. So definitely check that out. Shameless plug for my own channel.
Did Yeti show up in this one? I mean, in the last issue, they had a rattlesnake in South Pacific Island.
No weird animals in this one.
No weird animals? Okay.
Last but not least, hard stash for me, Event Leviathan. This is the best DC book out there right now. It's a spy novel. And we get introduced to a team 2 of detectives, if that makes any sense. So you get the one team of detectives that are kind of involved in the Event Leviathan story. And then we realize that Lois Lane has a contact for team 2, which is Female Question and a bunch of other people that I who knows, because of the artist, I can't tell who all of them are. But it's still interesting regardless. I'm really enjoying this. Again, if you like spy novels or spy books or spy stories, this is a great spy story. Let's see here. Make sure I got everything for you fine folk out there. I talked about that, talked about that. So yeah, I also picked up 3 issues from the Walmart, 3 #1 issues from there. I'm going to do a review on those on my channel, and we'll talk about those some more over there. But other than that, boom. And thanks for swinging by, One God Tank. What's up, comic fan?
How is it you're seeing it before me? You keep saying the chat. I'm like, I don't see that. And also, boop, as soon as you say it, it pops up. It's like you're some kind of wizard or something over there. I don't know what you're doing
here. It's no joke.
Is that what it is? What was I going to say? Gosh dang it. So yeah, if you like what we're doing here, make sure you go check us out on Patreon, where you can support us, where we give back to you guys. So we've given some decent books over the past I think year. We've had Patreon, so definitely thank you guys. So this book here is the Joshua Middleton cover for Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. That was this month's book, and the man to my it's to my right. I don't know what he is to you guys. He is the winner of that book, so I'll be kicking that out to him. So definitely go check us out on Patreon. We give books. Usually they're about $20 to $25 a piece. Usually. So definitely go check us out there and maybe get your chance to enter that. So $1 get you 1 entry, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. And all the money that we get ends up going back to the community by those bigger books from. This is a Midtown Comics exclusive. I go to Comic Man, I go to a few KRS Comics and try to find some cool books to give away. Because I actually do put a lot of effort into this. I pay for the software to edit the audio. I pay for the premium for DuckStream. What is this? StreamYard. StreamYard. So I'm kicking a lot of money out trying to make sure we're getting all this stuff out to you each week. Go check us out on Facebook where you can follow us on there. Post books you're selling, post books you're looking for. Maybe that's a great way to be able to fill those holes in your collection you're looking for. I think that's what's great about this community. You say, hey, I'm looking for XXX, and people say, hey, I got one of those, and we'll kick it to you. Sometimes we'll kick it to you for free. There's a little freebie. So definitely go check us out on Facebook, to follow us on Twitter, and follow us on Instagram, where I try to post interesting stuff on Instagram, books I pick up, maybe books we're talking about on the week show. Go check us out on Podbean, too, where we take the audio from this show as well as some other stuff. I know I keep saying I'm working on other stuff to add in there. My wife and I have got something planned. It's not necessarily comic book related, but it's I think it's going to be a fun little podcast to throw on there. Huey always looks for XXX. Only if I search for Drew Manchu in that section. Usually I pop up some really weird stuff. Donkeys and midgets are included. I don't know what it is. I probably just lost 3 subscribers since then. So give us a thumbs up, share this video, all that fun stuff. Check me out tomorrow. Usually I go live right around 11 o'clock, so that would be 3 Eastern. Talk about books that are coming out for this week. Maybe want to get into pull list. And I kind of try to set my budget, although I have been following it very well lately. It's like I have all these books. Oh, so One God Tank has an Instagram too, at One God Tank. So make sure you go follow him over there too. He is actually one of our newer subscribers on our channel. I'll do a quick shout out to those guys. Where's my list? There it is. One God Tank we have. Oh my God. Epic Urine Eye Relief. That's a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've seen him in chats before. He's done things. He's been into comic core stuff. I've met him. Well, not met him, but I've seen his name.
He's researched up to us, as well as Fat Pat Space City Gamings and Comics. That's a mouthful.
That's a name.
Can't say that 5 times fast. So that's it. Whether you blast it, whether you stash it, happy reading, and we'll see you guys next time.